Welcome to the 2019-20 first athletic event, and we have almost all incoming ninth graders coming to the high school next year, and welcome to New Richmond High School Athletics. You have a lot of paperwork and a lot of information is going to be shared with you tonight. I try to go as fast as I can with this meeting, but it is going to take us about 55 minutes to an hour. This is the one long meeting that you will have to deal with in your 4 years. After this, we had the 10th, 11th, and 12th graders in just before you at 6 o'clock. We are done with their meeting by 6:10 and got all their paperwork in. For many of you, our coaches do not know who you are. So our coaches have sign-up sheets in the back of the commons for you to sign up with information, contact information for the sports that you're interested in playing next year at New Richmond High School. That way our coaches can send you the information about season starting, off-season opportunities, and all of that information. So please find those lists in the back of the commons and sign up that information there as well. Like I said, a lot of information. We'll go as fast as we can and trust that you can read a lot of the things so I don't have to read everything for you. We do ask that you turn off your cell phones at this time so we don't get interrupted, and really lock in, especially student athletes, lock in and pay attention to this meeting. You see my email on your agenda, my email and contact information, and you also see Mrs. Emerson. She is the athletic assistant. She is right now in the Commons taking care of some paperwork. As soon as she pops in, I will introduce her so you know who she is. She handles all of the paperwork and all of the other administrative things as my assistant. We have a lot of things. We have information on the websites, information on fees, your expectations as student athletes. I have Stephanie Oilo here from Westfields Hospital to talk about our athletic training program. Reggie Larson, our strength and conditioning head coach, will be talking about the summer strength and conditioning and the in-season strength and conditioning program. We'll explain the athletic code and some of the ins and outs that you probably are not quite aware of, and then get you to sign all your paperwork and get everything taken care of. Just so we all understand, no athlete can practice, can go to the first practice and participate unless all the paperwork is turned in, physical is up to date, fees are paid, okay? We don't let anyone do anything until those things are done. Those of you who are having a hard time, or if you're on free and reduced lunch and you need a fee waiver, you simply need to see me and we will take care of that waiver. We understand those situations come up. None of our student athletes will be denied an opportunity to participate in our sports just simply because they can't afford the fee at this time. Many of you also have some information that you still need to complete. I have an incoming ninth grader next year. I'm not planning on paying the fee tonight. He needs to get a physical this summer before he can participate. We haven't scheduled that physical yet. That's okay. Turn in as much paperwork as you can tonight. Mrs. Emerson keeps a list of what you need to turn in, and she will keep that up to date if you have a physical schedule for later. Remember, physicals are good for 2 years. So if you've had a physical after April 1st, 2018, it's good for the 2018-19 and 2019-20 school year. So typically our people get their physical before their freshman year and before their junior year, and that's a state law as well. Okay, let's go through some information basically in the order that you picked up those sheets. First of all, the yellow sheet, questions about New Richmond Tiger Athletics. With the proliferation of all the websites and all the information and things on the district website, if you go to New Richmond School District website, you will see a link for athletics, and it will take you to middleborderconference.org. That is our conference website. Everything is up to date on there as far as schedules, location of games, any time changes, what time the bus leaves, everything you need. That's an important site for you because if we have to cancel an event, the very first thing, once we have made the decision to cancel, the first thing we do is put it on that website. Please do not call me at school asking if the game is still on. Typically during a sports season, we have 200 to 250 athletes participating in sports. I can't deal with 250 phone calls if the weather looks dicey. The first thing we do when we cancel is we put it on that website. Then I'm calling the referees, I'm calling the bus company to cancel buses. I'm working with the other athletic directors on rescheduling dates. And if everyone's calling me, it kind of mucks up the work. So middleborderconference.org is your key website. The other website you see there is the WIAA website. The WIAA is the governing body of athletics in the state of Wisconsin. That's a popular website come tournament time. So for example, unfortunately our soccer team lost at Onalaska yesterday. Had they won, you could have seen who they were going to play next right on the WIAA website. So that's an important website, and it has information about season regulations and all sorts of really good information. You have the contact for all of our coaches, head coaches, emails if you need to contact our head coaches. Again, they all have also, you can email is the best, but if you need to call them, certainly you can get that information by requesting that from the school. But all of those things are up to date. You never know, sometimes we have coaching changes in the summer, but right now it looks like all of our people are back from last year. The orange sheet, 2019-20 sport dates. We give this to you because it's really important for you, obviously, to plan your kids' calendar and your family calendars and vacations and what time does fall sports start or winter sports starts, or we're planning on going on vacation to spring break. How is that going to impact the start of the spring sports season? The WIAA rolled back the calendar this year. Every 6 years it rolls back a week, so now we are at the latest possible dates for the 2019-20 school year for our seasons to start. So for example, football equipment is on August 5th. Last year it was on July 30th. So things have rolled back a week. That's good when it rolls back. Homecoming week is the week of September 22nd. So the game, I believe, is September 26th is the Friday night homecoming game. Please use this calendar to plan your vacations. It's a little bit difficult for our coaches when they're a week or two into the season and then all of a sudden your family decides to go on vacation and someone's in Mexico for a week. Our athletics are very competitive. There's people vying for playing times. It's not like it was when you were in club sports and when you were in middle school where everyone kind of played about the same. Now, not only are you competing against other athletes in your grade, but you're competing against athletes in a grade ahead of you. Next year, you're competing with athletes a grade behind you. Things are significantly more competitive. And if you are not there, it's difficult for you to earn that playing time. So we ask that you plan your vacations as much as you can around this schedule. I have two sons that participate in our athletic program. Baseball gets done about the third week in July, and football starts the first week in August, and there really isn't a whole lot of time for vacations, and that's kind of what we signed up for. So we ask that you keep an eye on those dates. The green sheet, New Richmond High School Athletic Department, Parent Athlete Coach Expectations. I'm going to let you read that on your own, but I'm going to summarize it as much as possible. Let your kids talk for themselves. Please don't try to rescue them every time there's some slight inconvenience. They're getting to be big kids. It's an important skill for them to advocate for themselves and to learn how to talk to adults. It's always interesting to me when a parent calls up and says, Jimmy's football pants don't fit him. Well, it's Jimmy's problem, isn't it? If they don't fit him, you don't have to wear, as parents, you don't have to wear his football pants. Jimmy's got to wear them. All he has to do is talk to the coach and say, I need a smaller pair that fit me. So simply those things such as I'm going to be gone for a couple days, or some family member, something happened and we need to be gone for a couple days, let your children talk to the coach by themselves. If there's a bigger issue, if it's something serious, then get involved. But please don't be always jumping in when your kid can take care of those things by themselves. We do ask that you let your student athlete talk to the coaches if they have a concern first. If that doesn't resolve the issue, then set something up where you and the coaches can sit down together. Please understand, because you come in and have a concern, it does not necessarily mean the situation is going to be immediately fixed to your liking. Sometimes kids just don't get to play as much as other kids. Again, It's a competitive atmosphere. We have very caring coaches. We have coaches who are going to work with your kids and try to get the absolute most out of them athletically and as a person. But at the same time, some kids are better athletes, and as you get older, especially junior and senior year, the best athletes are going to play the most, and that's part of the nature of competitive athletics, okay? So if you have any concerns, please let your son or daughter try to work through it themselves first. If that doesn't work, set up a meeting with the coach. Please don't run to the coach unannounced when they're not prepared for it. And if that doesn't work, then I get involved after you've tried a couple other ways, and then I get involved and sit in on it and find out what the circumstance is, okay? Mrs. Emerson, please wave to everyone. That's your go-to person, everyone, for athletics here. She's in the front office at the high school, and then she comes back after a couple hours in the front office. She comes back to athletics partway through the day around 9:30, 10 o'clock, depending upon the day. She takes care of all of your paperwork, your fees, and we'll keep records up to date. So if you have any questions, you have her phone number, and she will take care of those things. She will also be in the Commons, so if you have any questions tonight for her, she'll be in the Commons collecting paperwork as well. Next category is our athletic training program. We are very, very fortunate to work with Westfields Hospital and Stephanie Oilo, who's going to come up and talk in a few moments, and Sean Washausen. Sean is our day-to-day athletic trainer. Sean does an absolutely fantastic job. I have seen a lot of athletic trainers in my years involved in sports. Sean is tremendous. He will push kids hard to get back to play when it's safe for them to do so. He will pull them out when it's not safe for them to continue to play. He's great with first aid. He's great with rehab programs. He is tireless in working with kids, even extended hours beyond what he really needs to work with them on. He just is really committed to them, and we're really happy to have Sean with us. So you have a form that explains the Westfields Hospital and Clinic Athletic Training Program. You have a form that says you give consent to be treated by our athletic trainer, and that's at no cost. There's no cost for our athletic trainer to work with you. We have some Wisconsin concussion laws, and there's a fact sheet for athletes called Heads Up Concussion. We have a fact sheet for parents put out by the Department of Public Instruction, a fact sheet for athletes put out by the Department of Public Instruction. We have a parent and athlete agreement, and the parent and athlete agreement says if you see signs of a concussion in your son or daughter, you will not keep it secret from us. You will let us know. We need to safeguard your child in the concussion area in particular. My family has dealt with a lot of issues with concussion with my oldest son. Stephanie works with the concussion program at Westfield. She has so many connections in the medical field that I can tell you that my oldest son, who's going to be a senior, would not be involved in athletics today if not for Stephanie's connections with some very specialized treatment. So we're very, very fortunate to have people on the cutting edge of some of the concussion treatment, but it's very important that you follow those protocols. The impact test, that's information about a computer-generated assessment device where student athletes will take the impact test. We get a baseline of their brain information, and then before they're eligible to go back to play, return to play protocol that Steph's going to explain, they have to pass that impact test again, and then there is a consent form to take that impact test, and all of those are some of the medical requirements. So at this time, Stephanie's going to talk to you more about the athletic program and some things about our concussion protocol and those things through the WIAA. By the way, the WIAA has a program that if your son or daughter suffers a concussion while participating in our athletics, the WIAA pays for that concussion treatment. There are forms that you just simply contact me. I email you the forms, and the WIAA covers the cost for concussion treatment. Stephanie.
Good evening and welcome to the high school. Again, my name is Steph and I'm with Westfields Hospital and Clinic in our athletic training program. As Casey said, Sean Washausen is the athletic trainer that's here, and he's here pretty much every day after school. So any of your regular scheduled school days, Sean is here. On the form that we have for you, it outlines what you can expect of us. There's a lot on here, so I'm not going to go through it point by point, but we're really here to be a resource so that you as an athlete can stay involved as much as you possibly can and get back to your sport as quickly as possible if there's an injury or something that's holding you out. So take advantage of this. This is a free program for you as athletes. Not every school has this, to have 5 days a week, as much event coverage as we do, some of those things. Like, that's a really big service. So thank your school, because that's a great thing to have. On this sheet, it has the events that we're generally at as well, and it goes through some of the other things that they offer. On the back of it, we do outline what we expect of you as parents and athletes as well, and part of that is reporting injuries as soon as they happen so we can help you get back as quickly as possible. As Casey mentioned, there's some stuff like legislative and laws around concussion management, so that's briefly outlined on here. We have a very thorough concussion management policy. The purpose is not to keep you out of your sports. It's really to make sure that we protect your head, because if you are injured and you don't tell us and you take a second hit, your recovery is likely to take much, much longer. So something that generally recovers within a couple to a few weeks really well on its own is going to hold you out probably the rest of your season, maybe longer. So watch out for your sons and your daughters, watch out for your friends if you're an athlete and your teammates. Tell your parents, tell your coaches, keep an eye out for those things so that if it comes up, we can help you get better as quickly as possible. As Casey mentioned, the new insurance policy that's been out for a couple of years is phenomenal. It covers up to $25,000 of medical care, so it's really designed that you can get the care that you need without any financial limitations. So we will help guide you with that process as well. As Casey said, we do impact testing. If you played or were in athletics in the middle school, you've most likely completed this as well. But coming in as a freshman, everyone will complete the baseline test. It's a 20 to 25 minute test that you do on the computer, designed to test things like memory, reaction time, processing speed. It's set up, if you haven't seen one before, it's set up more like a little mind teasers or games that they do on the computer. At the bottom of the sheet is contact information for both Sean and myself. Sean is always your first go-to, so please reach out to him because he's going to be able to give you the fastest care because he's here every day. If you have questions or concerns beyond that, by all means, please reach out to me as well because I'm happy to be a resource at any point. We do have a website on the school, or a page on the school website. So if you go to athletics and sports medicine, we include the same information there, and our contact information is there as well. So like I said, please don't hesitate at any point to contact us. Other than that, good luck with your seasons and welcome to high school.
And I truly mean this, we have outstanding people. Stephanie and Sean are as good as you are going to find. When we have visiting teams come in and they have to deal with an injured athlete on another team, they've always been so impressed with the quality of care that our kids have gotten. So we are very, very lucky. One of the other things that's going to be significantly different for you as student athletes from the middle school is our expectations in the weight room and out of season conditioning, in-season conditioning, during the school year strength and conditioning. We have developed over the past 10 years a really strong model for athletic participation and strength and conditioning training. It's a program that we developed working with the head strength and conditioning trainer at the University of Wisconsin. We have talked to some of the best high school and college strength and conditioning people. We encourage three-sport athletes. We know that training for different sports is different. We incorporate auxiliary lifts based on sport-specific things because obviously a volleyball player is significantly different in how they use their bodies than, for example, a cross-country runner. It's really been an interesting process over the last 10 years as we continue to develop the program and try to stay as cutting edge as we can. During the season, if your son or daughter is in season, they will lift at least 2 times a week during the season. It might be really early in the morning, it might be just before practice, it might be at the end of practice. Out of season, we're looking for a 3 to 4 day commitment out of season, and we strongly encourage you all to participate in our summer strength and conditioning program. The benefits are many. Your son or daughter will be faster, stronger, quicker, more agile, and as important as any of those things are, it will certainly help with injury prevention. Many years ago, when I was in high school, you played 3 sports, you maybe had 2 weeks between season, and you might have lifted for those 2 weeks, and that's the only time you touched a weight. We condition all the time to continue to develop our body so that you can have the most successful athletic experience on the field, on the court that's possible. And I am very happy to introduce Mr. Reggie Larson. He's going to come up and talk to you about some of the specifics of our strength and conditioning program. It's really a nice thing, especially in the summer. You can get summer school credit for it. It gets your kids up and moving in the morning, and pretty much then they have the rest of their day off in the summer. But Reggie's going to talk to you a little bit more. He also doubles as our head football coach, but our strength and conditioning program is not football specific. It is for all of our sports. And like I said, we have some more specific programming based on the type of sport it is.
Thank you, Casey. Just like you mentioned, my name's Reggie Larson. He kind of said a lot of the same stuff that I'm going to tell you, so I might just word it in a little bit different way, because he hit the nail right on the head in everything that he was saying. But just like as he said, I'm the head strength and conditioning coordinator, so what that means is I coordinate all the different athletic teams that come through our high school, and then I'm also the varsity head football coach as well. The first thing I want to lead off with is this group right here. Is you guys are in a really exciting time, because actually just a couple weeks ago we just got approved for a $30,000 weight room rendition, that's going to be completed this July. So you guys are going to be fortunate enough to use that new weight room for all 4 years. So it's going to be a really exciting time to kind of break that in. It's going to be really well done. Kind of piggybacking off what Mr. Eckert was saying, just the importance of strength and conditioning, and kind of like what he mentioned too, is it's not just a contact sport that does strength and conditioning. It's not just football players that do strength and conditioning. It's not just males that do strength and conditioning. We're doing strength and conditioning to make every one of our athletes better in their specific sport. Okay, so what we're looking at and doing with our strength and conditioning program is number one, we want to increase our performance by getting kids to run faster, jump higher, and be stronger. That's why we say it's important for every sport to do it, because there's not a sport out there where having those 3 things is going to make you a worse player. That's our main goal, is we want to get you to run faster, jump higher, and be stronger. Okay, like he also mentioned, the injury prevention side of it is also very important. A lot of times when you see injuries, you see kids pull muscles, pull their hamstring, pull their quadricep. A lot of times it's because it hasn't been trained enough, and then when they go into their season, they're putting those heavy demands on it. It's not ready for that, and that's when injury can occur, and then you end up missing half your season. And that's not what you want to do. We want to make sure all of our kids are having the most success they can during that athletic season. Like he also mentioned, we kind of break our strength and conditioning into 3 different phases. We have our in-season kids, our out-of-season kids, and then our summer. All of them are equally important. I would say that the in-season lifting is the easiest one to get to, because that's when your coaches are pushing it on you, and the expectation has been set by our entire athletic department that you will lift in season twice a week. The more difficult one is that off-season lifting, when you don't necessarily have a coach kind of always talking in the building about the importance of strength and conditioning. But the out-of-season is just not, if not more important than the in-season strength and conditioning to get yourself ready to go for that upcoming season. And then obviously we have our summer, which, looking at our numbers, is we have a ton of kids signed up for that, so that's going to be really good as well. So just some opportunities to get those lifts in. We just kind of talked about the summer. New this next year is going to be something called a 0-hour weight training class. This isn't going to be for our incoming freshmen, but it's going to be for our 10th through 12th graders, so you guys will be able to take it the following year. It's a weight training class before school, essentially, that you'll receive credit for, which will count as your in-season lift as well. Even if you don't want to take that 0-hour weight training class and you just want to come in and work out in the morning before school, the weight room is again open at that time for those student athletes that would prefer to do that. I'm here every morning at 6 a.m. Then we have our after school. So again, this is more geared towards those kids that are out of season, because those in-season kids obviously have their practice time, but if you're out of season, that's a great time to do it. And then we also do offer a weight training class during the day, where you'll actually again get credit for taking weight training, but you'll just be able to get your workout in during the day. So we have plenty of opportunities to get those workouts in. It just kind of goes back on some personal responsibility of that student athlete to make it a point to essentially better themselves even when they're not in season. So that's really all I have. So thank you guys very much, and good luck in your path here.
Coach Larson is very, very dedicated to our strength and conditioning program. He is here by 6:15 in the morning. He doesn't even think about leaving until 5, and that's every day. So, you know, he'll be there. We will be strongly encouraging you, even pushing some of you to get in that weight room. But I have to be completely honest. You may never lift at all out of season. And if you're still the best player, you're going to play. I mean, that's the reality. You maybe you're a baseball player and you never lift in the off season, but you're throwing 95. You're going to pitch for us. And you may be a cross country runner and you never do the strength and conditioning program, but if you're running just over 5-minute miles, you're going to be in that lineup. So what the strength and conditioning program is opportunities. It'll be required during your season. But out of season, it's opportunities, and if you want to have the best possible experience and the most success as an athlete, then you develop your bodies, and quite frankly, that's how it goes. Before I start talking about the athletic code, just a couple real quick comments. I've been involved in athletics now for, I hate to say this number, but over 50 years. I was not prepared for how hard it is to be a parent of an athlete. I have a senior next year and an incoming freshman. I have seen their successes. I've seen their failures. I've seen their struggles. I've seen their joy. I've seen their frustrations with coaches. It is a roller coaster of emotions. I've had to talk my wife off the ledge a few times. She's had to talk me off the ledge a few times. I get worked up about my kids' experience as well. But the bottom line is, it's their experience to have. And they're going to learn from their successes, but they're going to also learn from their struggles. I will be very, very surprised if any of you student athletes sitting in this meeting right now play professional sports. I just finished my 11th year here as the athletic director. We haven't had one yet in those 11 years play professional sports. Maybe someone in this class will get there. But the odds are against you. Parents, work really hard with your child on keeping perspective. When things don't go their way, work really hard with them as far as learning how they can get better and how they can handle some of those frustrations. They take the lead from you. Typically 2 or 3 times a year, I have a parent call me up and say, the coach ruined the sport for the child. It's causing them all sorts of emotional, psychological issues. Well, I can tell you, some kids play more than others. And as a parent, you have to work with your child on what happens when they're not playing as much as other people. Our coaches want to win, but our coaches are compassionate, caring people as well. One of the toughest things about coaching is not being able to play everyone the same. And they have to make those decisions as a coaching staff based upon what they see from all of the coaches every day. We ask that you keep working with your son or daughter on those issues. And I'm telling you, how many people in here have first-time high school athlete, not younger brothers and sisters, but it's your first child going through high school. The demands on your child's time are going to be difficult. There's going to be early mornings and there are going to be some late nights. They're not going to get home from some away games until 10, 11 o'clock at night sometimes, and possibly even some trips to lacrosse where they might not be home until midnight. And you're the person who's got to get up and go in and pick them up and things like that. They're going to be tired. They're going to be crabby. They're going to complain about our coaches once in a while. And we have to take everything they say with a grain of salt. And so that's from 50 years of being involved in athletics. But again, it is hard to be a parent of an athlete. You feel their frustrations and you feel their struggles, and just work with them as best you can, and stay patient. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Okay? What's going to take me about 20 minutes, I'm going to go as fast as I can, is a review of the athletic code. So it's the orange packet that has all of the information. The athletic code was revised in 2009. It's gone through 2 or 3 revisions since then. The WIAA requires us to have an athletic code for our student athletes. The school district invests well over $500,000 in our athletic program. In fact, that number is probably closer to $600,000, $700,000. There are responsibilities that go along with participating in athletics. Remember, participation in extracurricular activities is voluntary. We make you go to school based on state law. We don't make you participate in our sports or our activities. That's something you choose to do, and as a result, there are some more stringent rules for your behavior that are not present in our regular student body who's not involved in our activities. Remember, on page 3, a student is required to follow this activities code on a year-round basis. It's not like, oh, I'm done with the fall season, I'm done with girls tennis, I can go do whatever I want until next tennis. You are on the athletic code all the time while you're involved in high school. Page 4, attendance. This is one where we probably have some issues with students more than almost anything else. You must be in school on time to participate in athletics that night. Anything more than 10 minutes late to first hour, and you do not get to participate that night. What happens if I didn't feel good and I didn't go to first hour, but I'm sucking it up and I'm going into second hour? Once you have missed more than 10 minutes, you do not get to be involved in sports that night. If you're too sick to get to school on time, you're too sick to participate. You also need to be in school the entire time unless you have documentation for like a medical appointment. So typically that might be the first thing in the morning. You need to bring a slip from that doctor or chiropractor or dentist or whatever appointment you have. Certainly field trips, college visits, pre-excused situations, family emergencies. If you have things like that, simply call me up to make sure that those things are cleared. But we have this every year. Prom week, someone thinks that they can miss 2 hours on Friday to go get a tuxedo fitted for them. Well, if you do that, you don't get to play in our sports that night. If you decide you want to have a long lunch with mom or dad and miss part of fifth hour, you don't get to participate in sports that night. So if you have any questions, make sure you clear it with the office ahead of time. Also on page 4, state athletic rules of eligibility. That comes from the WIAA, and that is in the WIAA handbook. Those are things you can look at. Bottom line is you need to live in the New Richmond School District or be open enrolled. If you are a homeschool student and are in a DPI approved homeschool program and you live in the attendance boundaries of New Richmond School District, you can also participate in our athletic program. Moving quickly to page 6, academic standards for athletics. And then there's also academic standards for activities. This is more of an athletic code meeting. You can read the academic standards for activities. What we do is we take grades at the end of every quarter. And as soon as grades come out, which are typically 2 or 3 days after the end of the quarter, we get a list of who has failed what classes. The moment we get that list, the moment those are in, Mrs. Emerson and I go over the list, who's in what sport and who has a failing grade. Again, quarterly. So, if you look at letter A, if you fail one class during a marking period, during quarter grades, you are ineligible for the next 10% of the games or contests. And then after you have served that suspension, you have to take a sheet around to all your teachers showing that you are passing all of your classes. If you are still failing a class, you do not get to participate for another week. We do not reinstate you to participate in games until you are passing all of your classes. And you might be passing the one that you failed first quarter and be failing something else, and you're still not eligible. You have to be passing all of your classes. Every Monday, I check with the teachers of students who failed a class and have been reinstated. You must be still passing that class to be able to participate in sports. Letter B, if you fail 2 subjects during a marking period, which is quarter grades, it results in ineligibility for 15 school days and a minimum of 2 contests. After those 2 contests, you must be passing all of your classes to be reinstated. If you fail 3 classes in a quarter, you are out the entire next quarter. And that's not good, because I can tell you there isn't an excuse to fail classes here at New Richmond High School. I have never seen a more dedicated group of teachers than we have here. The information is on Skyward. Grades are kept up to date. You get progress reports. If you are not failing a class, it's because you have worked to not pass that class. You have worked to fail. And I'm going to tell you, this is one thing I always scold the boys at, my incoming freshman boys. And this is more of a guy issue than a female issue, but it does also apply to females. Your homework is not going to go away here at the high school. You don't want to do your English, you don't want to do your daily math work, you will fail a class and you will be ineligible. We don't think because you're a wonderful kid in every other way that, oh, it's okay, go ahead and fail, don't turn in your work. I'm sorry. It doesn't go away. If you don't do your work, you're going to fail a class and you're not going to be eligible. So if you've blown things off at the middle school and not met all your academic responsibilities, I would strongly encourage you to make some changes before next fall, because our people will hold you accountable. And that tends to be a struggle for some of our freshman boys, particularly in the areas of English and math. So I strongly recommend you get after that homework. All ineligibilities start as soon as I get the grades. It's not like, well, Mr. Ecker, we have a big game against Somerset tonight. Can I start serving my suspension starting tomorrow? No. The day we get the grades, the day we implement the ineligibilities. Sometimes that's in the afternoon of the biggest game of the year, and we have to pull kids out. We have to pull kids out of the activity because the ineligibilities just came out. Anybody have any questions about the academic side and eligibility? And again, I will also take questions afterwards, because I know people have individual questions that are maybe not for the whole group. Page number 8, code violations, athletics and activities. Things you can and cannot do. I'm going to go as fast as I can. Alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs. You cannot use, possess, buy, try to buy, sell, try to sell those kind of substances. Any of those things will result in athletic suspension. Letter B, hazing. Hazing is an activity that threatens a student's mental or physical health. We do not do hazing. We have not had a hazing incident in the 11 years I've been here. We're not going to haze our students. We're not going to lock them in a bathroom on the bus on a long road trip. We're not going to drop them out in the country and make them run back to New Richmond. We don't do those things. If anybody does something that makes you feel uncomfortable, you let me know immediately, and I will get strongly and swiftly involved in that issue. Letter letter C, I'm sorry, there's a little typo there. Harassment and bullying. Any athlete who violates School District of New Richmond policy regarding bullying, other forms of aggressive behavior shall be suspended. Those things include bullying, cyberbullying, harassment, intimidation, and menacing behavior, physical, verbal, psychological, and technology transmitted behavior. Girls, your turn to get scolded before the fact. You are mean people on your phones sometimes. Holy man. The stuff Mr. Swanson and I see on phones, Mr. Swanson is the other assistant principal responsible for discipline. The things you say to other people, oh my goodness sakes. If you want to get after someone using your phone or technology or Instagram or Snapchat or all those other forms that I am way too old to get familiar with, you will be suspended. You don't get to hide behind a computer and take shots at people. You don't get to take shots at your coaches, officials, other athletes, other teams. The cardinal rule, if you put something online, how would grandma or grandpa feel if they read what you put online? If they wouldn't approve, you shouldn't put it online. Those things stay with you for life. We're all aware of the dangers of overuse of technology. We get more kids, I'll tell you the three things we get kids in trouble with more than anything else. Ineligibilities, vaping, and nasty stuff online. Bad pictures, sharing pictures, harassment, bullying. And that takes up a lot of Mr. Swanson in my day. And it's amazing the things that are out there. Parents, please police that as much as you can. There are some, I see some of the smiles and the head nods from parents. They know exactly what I'm talking about. Letter D, other. There are some situations in which you can be legally at a place where alcohol or tobacco are being used. Let's say you went and watched our volleyball game this fall and you and the family decide to go to Champs. Can mom or dad have a couple adult beverages while you're having dinner with them? Absolutely. Maybe you go to a family wedding and the adults are drinking adult beverages and you're not. Certainly you can be at those situations. The key to this is you cannot be at places where those chemicals are being used illegally. A drinking party, people vaping, smoking, being around people who are smoking at an underage party, things like that. Unfortunately, we can't monitor everybody's behavior. So if you're at those places, if you're at an underage party, you are as guilty as if you actually consumed in the eyes of the athletic code, and there'll be consequences the same as if you were consuming. Let me run you through what you should do if you get in a situation that you weren't prepared for. Let's say you're planning on hanging out with a bunch of your friends on Friday night after the game. You have been told by your friends, no one's going to be drinking, it's not going to be one of those parties, everything's cool. You go to the house and all of a sudden somebody has alcohol, or a party breaks out, or someone comes and brings alcohol, and all of a sudden you know that this is a place you should not be. You need to leave those premises immediately. It's rare to have a person in high school now who doesn't have a phone. You walk out of the building where that party is going on immediately. You call mom or dad, say, pick me up and get me out of here. I can't be here. Then, the next day, next school day, talk to your coach, come and see me and say, I just want you to know, on Friday night, I went somewhere, there wasn't supposed to be alcohol there. I walked in, I saw people were drinking, I left immediately. Only then can I protect you. And the problem is, if you don't tell me that, then you're probably keeping a secret from me. I will not cross-examine you. I will not ask you to rat out your friends. What I will ask you is, which other of your friends were at that party with you and left right away? I want to know who left when they should have left so that I can protect them. Okay? So does that make sense what you need to do? If you go somewhere and it doesn't turn out and you know it's a place that you shouldn't be, leave immediately, call your parents, come and see me the next school day, let me know what was going on. Again, I'm not going to press you for too many details. I'm going to ask you, can you give me a general idea of what happened? And who knows that you left right away so that I can protect you? Because my phone will ring a few days later and they'll say, Joe Schmo was at a party because someone wants, someone's going to want to get you. That's the world we live in where people try to get each other. And if I know what happened, I can protect you and help you out in that situation, okay? And if that happens probably 3 or 4 times a year where student athletes come in and tell me what went on, and I am able to protect them. So if that situation happens, please let me know. Letter E is criminal, and letter F is unacceptable conduct. Criminal means trouble with the law. Unacceptable conduct might be some school-related behavior that gets you in trouble. When we have things that are criminal behavior or school-related discipline issues, I talked to Mr. Wissink, our head principal. I talked to Mr. Swanson and Mrs. Link, our other assistant principals, and we look at how severe your behavior was and adjust the consequences accordingly. If you mouth off to a teacher one time, you're probably just going to get talked to and probably have some lunch detentions. You probably won't be suspended. You do it a second time, you're going to be suspended. You cheat on a test, we find out, you're going to get suspended. You get in a fight in school, you're going to get suspended from events. You plagiarize a paper, you're going to get suspended. You rob the First National Bank, you're going to be suspended for a long time, okay? You jaywalk, we probably won't do anything. Okay. Consequences and penalties. One new policy change this year comes from the WIAA. Last year, the WIAA was highly embarrassed when they had a player playing in the state boys basketball tournament with an electronic monitoring bracelet on his ankle for armed robbery, and he was allowed to play in the state tournament. The WIAA did not like the optics of that. Thus, the new WIAA policy, any student charged or convicted of a felony is ineligible for participation in all WIAA activities until the student has satisfied all of the requirements ordered by the court in declaring a sentence served, including probations, community service, and any other court orders. In addition, if you get suspended for games and it runs into the first game of the WIAA tournament, once you are suspended from one game in the WIAA tournament, you are ineligible for the rest of the WIAA tournament series, such as regional, sectionals, and state. That is a WIAA requirement. Letter A on page 9, honesty reduction. I'm just finishing my 33rd year teaching, coaching, administration, being involved in public education. Good kids make mistakes. 100% we know that. Think back, parents, you can think back. You think back the mistakes you made. I think back to the mistakes I make. We understand those things happen. We have an honesty reduction clause in there that the first time, if you violate the athletic code, and we would not have found out about it otherwise, and you come in and self-report, your first violation is reduced from 20% down to 10%. Typically in a situation like that, you mess up, your parents realize you mess up, your parents say you need to go in and talk to the athletic director and self-report what you did. I applaud parents who make their children take the responsibility for those kind of things. The honesty reduction is only present for the first code violation. Other than that, first violation of the athletic code is suspension from athletic competition for 20% of the regular season maximum. That can range from a minimum, powerlifting has 5 meets. Typically that means you'd only be suspended for 1 meet. Baseball has 26 games. That would be suspension for 5 games. So every sport has a different number of contests. So it's 20% of the contests in those sports for the first violation. If you decide to do something incredibly short-sighted and host the party, the penalty gets doubled. If you host a drinking party and it's your first violation, instead of a 20% suspension, it is a 40% suspension. Those who host lose the most. If you violate the athletic code with drinking, supplying drugs, or things like that on school grounds, the penalty gets doubled as well. We do not want those things involved in school and messing up the education of our 900 plus students. Second violation of the athletic code results in athletic suspension for 50% of the games. If it is a second offense for alcohol, tobacco, or other drugs, you also need to undergo an assessment to see if there is a greater problem. Our goal is not to make your life miserable, but our goal is, if it's a second violation, let's say for drinking, perhaps there's a problem that needs to be addressed before it really messes up your life long term. And we would have you undergo an assessment from a counselor and then meet any of those recommendations before you're allowed to come back and play. Unfortunately, this year, there were 3 athletes who will never participate in athletics at New Richmond High School again because they had their third offense for drugs, alcohol, or tobacco. It's very sad when those things happen. We see some kids who just cannot put the chemicals aside. I feel bad for them. I feel bad that their life has gone down that path because obviously I believe in our activities and I believe in our sports and I believe how important that they are for development of a young person. I look at some of the best things that have happened in my life and the lessons that I've learned and from being involved in sports. And I feel really bad when kids are no longer able to continue their athletic career because of drugs or alcohol. That being said, we will never ever look the other way when we get a report. Just so you all understand, we do not go looking for athletic code violations. I do have a life. It isn't just tracking down high school kids. But when we get a report, we will always follow through on it. We will always be honest. We don't care if it is our best athlete, all-stater, or a person who never gets to play. The code is applied equally. If any of your friends ever tell you differently, I will challenge that every day of the week. We get a report, we investigate, we follow through. It is truly that simple. And I can speak very, very clearly on the integrity of all the people in the office. I can speak very clearly about my integrity when it comes to those things. Kids violate the athletic code, we hate that phone call, we investigate, and we administer the consequences, regardless of who you are. It's that simple. Almost there, folks. Suspension begin date on page 12. As soon as we find the information and we determine that the evidence is valid, we administer the code immediately. I meet with the student athlete. I explain things to them. I make a phone call home. It's followed up with a letter outlining the suspension and the consequences start immediately. Just so you understand, we don't have a ton of kids get athletic code suspensions. Last year I sat up here and it was the worst year we ever had. We had 41 different athletic code violations. That was a staggering amount. This year that number was right around 25. It's down. Some were some repeat offenders. I can tell you one of the biggest issues we have with athletic code right now is the vaping. It has just skyrocketed over the last 3 years. The kids see it as a game. Sometimes it's unhealthy. It's not good for you. It's addictive. It's something that if you've started, you need to stop. I see a lot of parallels with that with smoking from 20 years ago, and it's something that's just not good for you. We also have due process. You can read through that. If you don't think that we have the evidence to make our decision, then you can appeal that to Mr. Wissink, the principal. If you don't like how he rules on it, then you can appeal it to Mr. Olson, the superintendent. In my 11 years, we have had 4 appeals that have gone to Mr. Olson. We have never had an athletic code violation overturned. And quite frankly, just how it works, I bring a student athlete into my office. I ask them, you want to tell me what you did last Friday? They almost always, 80% of the time, they lie to me first. That's step 1. I'm so used to it. They start lying to me and I go, okay, well let me tell you what happened. This. And then they put their head down and go, yep, I did it. We don't go fishing. We don't fish for athletic code violations. We have the information, we administer it, we move on. And so that's basically how that process goes. Questions on the athletic code? You're about a minute away from being done. Okay, number one, if you have any questions, come and see me. If you need a fee waiver, you're going to stop here and see me. Fees, $50 a sport. You do not have to pay that tonight. It just has to be paid before they start practice. $100 limit per individual. So if you do 2 or 3 sports, it's $100 for the year. There is a $200 family limit. And by the way, I've seen about 20 parents who this is like their 3rd time they've had to listen to this through the years. I apologize and thanks for your patience. We have athletic passes available to purchase. I am trying to work with the school board on eliminating ticket fees for our high school athletes and our middle school athletes. Like they're a student of New Richmond School District that they wouldn't have to pay to get into a basketball game or football game, volleyball game, wrestling, whatever. But August 1st, those passes, if you want to buy a family pass to get into all the athletic events or a student pass, August 1st, after that date, those will be ready. But hopefully I can get that policy change enacted in the next couple months. I have to get it approved by the school board. Things you're going to turn in. You're going to go to the Commons. I have 10, 12 teachers and coaches to collect your paperwork. It won't take you long at all. You complete the sports you want to participate in and the activities you want to participate in, and you can change this later. You make sure you have your emergency medical information written out on that form, your residence information. The athlete and the parent signs it in front of the coach. Concussion forms filled out, impact test form, permission for the trainer to treat. Fill out all that paperwork and then make sure you sign up for the sports in the back of the Commons so coaches have that information. Those of you who have questions, come on up and see me right away. Thank you very much for your patience.